What's going on, guys? Ronan here, and welcome back to What If Indigo Champion Ash Challenge the Johto League Part 10. But before we get into today's part, I need you to take a look at this analytics stat bar. As you can see, 62.9% of you guys that watch my content are not subscribed. So, if you could do me a favor and just hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss an upload, it would help our channel grow and get to a larger audience. But with that out of the way, let's get into today's video. There's going to be a lot that happens, and I promise you, at the end of it all, things will never be the same. So without further ado, let's get into What If Indigo Champion Ash Challenge the Johto League Part 10. I hope you enjoy. Today, we pick back up with the battle between Nessa and Ash. Octillery is trying to recover from the hit that it just took. That drill run, the speed it uses, seems to allow to hit harder with more power. Ash thinks as he looks at the Barraskewda circling, waiting on its trainer's command. No move, Ash? Fine. Barraskewda, use Throat Chop. The torpedo fish bolts through the water. If this move hits, Octillery could be done for. Ash then sees something. The pattern that Barraskewda attacks in. It's in a zigzag. It must do that to confuse its opponent, Ash thinks. This gives him an idea. Octillery, use Psybeam on the water. Fire in all directions. Confused, Nessa looks on, not sure on how to take this. Octillery continues to fire. You can see the ripples in the water, and Barraskewda can dodge them with little difficulty. However, this is keeping it at bay, as it can't get in close lest risk it take a blast of the psychic energy. Nessa tells Ash that Octillery can't keep this up. It's starting to tire. But Ash just smiles, looking down. Wondering what he sees, Nessa looks down as well, to see the water rippling with current. That's when she puts two and two together. The Psybeams, they are starting to collide, spreading out their power. This makes it harder for Barraskewda to dodge the energy as the moves are amplified as they collide into each other. And just like Ash thought, the moves eventually intersect and Barraskewda gets caught. Its speed actually played a part in this, because the path it was cutting through the water gave the beams a place to follow. No, Nessa yelps. I let my guard down. Looking to Ash, she sees what B was talking about. But there's much more than just that. If this kid has time, he's dangerous in battle. Nessa knows she needs to take back control of this battle, so she orders another drill run. But there's a slight problem. Barraskewda is confused, unresponsive. Ash sees this and orders Octillery to use Constrict. It makes its way to the opponent as Barraskewda was stunned by the confusion. Octillery begins to wrap its tentacles around the fangy fish, using its suction cups to hold it in place. Nessa, realizing she's running out of time, makes a call she hopes will get through. Ice Fang. Full of toothful aggression, it breaks the confusion, chomping down on the last tentacle of Octillery, saving it from being completely enveloped. The Ice Fang causes Octillery to flinch in pain, loosening its grip slightly. Nessa, seeing this, tells it to push away as hard as it can, but Octillery won't let go. The problem is that it's at a position that any attack it launches will only do minimum damage. Ash, realizing this, tries to think of something, as Barraskewda is starting to break free. Octillery, however, refuses to let its prey get away, as it begins to glow, firing an odd attack from its mouth that doesn't stop. Barraskewda is stunned as this damage it takes grows. However, Octillery is starting to tire, loosening its grip on the fish. Ash, wondering what that move was, takes out his Pokedex to learn that it's called Bullet Seed, a grass-type move. This gives Ash an idea. Octillery, let go of Barraskewda. This shocks Nessa, wondering what Ash has planned, but she won't let this chance at a free win get away, ordering one last drill one. Octillery is moving very slow, but its full trust is in Ash, as he tells it to hold. Barraskewda rushes in as fast as it can. Ash then tells Octillery to spin, as Barraskewda does. Leaning forward, Octillery spins head first in place. The two are within inches from each other. Ash then orders another Bullet Seed. Octillery fires it, and the grass move seems to miss its target. Nessa laughs. Ash, you gambled and lost. But Ash is smiling. Are you sure? Nessa looks back to the water as she sees what Ash was aiming for. The Bullet Seed was being carried through the current that was created by Octillery spinning, allowing them to find their target. Barraskewda's attack begins to lose its power as it slows, but it still connects with Octillery. The two trainers look on as both of their Pokemon service in a double knockout. The crowd erupts in excitement. That was only the second battle, but it feels like it was the finale. They begin to cheer for Ash and Nessa. Man, that sound. It feels like home, Nessa says. What do you mean, Ash asks. Well, back in Galar, people take Pokemon battles very seriously. Sometimes the fans have more energy than the trainers. Wow, maybe I should go there sometime, Ash says. You would grab a lot of attention, Nessa replies, as the two trainers ready their final Pokemon. Two that haven't made their way into a battle in the World Cup as of yet. Are you ready, Ash? Because this next choice will keep you at bay. Dreadnought, go! a very bulky turtle-like Pokemon takes to the field with a thud that rocks the water around it. Looking at it, Ash thinks to himself that this must be Nessa's ace. It's the only one he hasn't seen her battle with to this point. He must be careful. There's no telling what it can do. Ash uses his Pokedex to get some basic info on this Pokemon, but it seems that the data that it can provide is very limited. Oh well, Ash never really worries about the details anyway. Gripping his final choice tightly, he yells, "Lapras, I choose you!" The ice type takes to the field, ready for battle. Lapras looks out at the open ocean. There, in the water, is its herd, watching, waiting to see what it can do. The pressure isn't only on Ash to perform here. Nessa tells Ash his Lapras looks very strong. She can't wait to see what it can do. Ash smiles. "Don't worry, you won't have to wait long. Lapras, use Body Slam." Lapras cries as it miraculously pushes itself from the water, taking to the air. Nessa, however, is unfazed as she calls for the move Rock Polish. The Body Slam connects, but Dreadnought just takes it as Lapras slides off it back into the water. Dreadnought begins to glow as it develops a shine. But this failure of the move was just what Ash wanted, to test the defense of this thing. "Impressive, Nessa. Your Dreadnought is very bulky. It seems I'm going to have to use some serious power to bring it down." "True, Ash. That Body Slam was a bit on the weak side if you hope to do any major damage to my Pokemon." "Well, let's see what we can do then," as Ash calls for an Ice Beam. Nessa just smiles as she calls for another Rock Polish. The Ice Beam hits just like the Body Slam, but the effect appears to be non-existent, much to Ash's surprise. Wait, why? But then it begins to dawn on Ash. Is this thing? Yes, it's a rock type, Nessa says as she chuckles a little bit. It finally settles in just how hard this will be for Ash, as Lapras is at a type disadvantage, being half ice. "Well, Ash, shall we?" Nessa says, as for the first time, she orders her Pokemon on the offensive, telling it to take to the water. The speed it moves is far greater than something of its size should be able to do. Then the second realization for Ash sets in, the move Rock Polish. It must have increased the speed of Dreadnought, Ash thinks. Now, he's watching as it circles Lapras, while neither can track its movements in the water. That's when Nessa calls for her next move, a Rock Blast. Suddenly, giant rocks begin to emerge from the water, blasting from different directions. At Ash's order, Lapras tries to dodge, managing to avoid most of them, but this isn't for long, as one finally connects, appearing to injure Lapras severely. Nessa then orders a crunch, while Lapras tries to shake off its confusion. The bulky turtle chomps down of one of its flippers, causing Lapras to cry in pain. However, Ash was waiting for this, wanting Dreadnought to come to them. With a shout at the top of its lungs, Ash calls for a move that no one would see coming, something Lapras learned at seas while fighting major storms. Thunderbolt! The rideshare Pokemon glows with a yellow aura as it lights up Dreadnought while it's still attached to the flipper. The pain it feels causes Dreadnought to break its hold from Lapras as it dives looking to escape the range of the Thunderbolt. But there is one problem. They are in the water, and it conducts electricity. Nessa sees that she has nowhere to go. Dreadnought needs to power through to knock Lapras out. She orders it to turn back and launch a Rock Blast at it, but Ash had Lapras hot on its tail, ordering it to dive when Dreadnought did. Dreadnought's speed only works when it has room for wide turns, but when they are up close, its range is severely limited. With the final move, Ash orders another Thunderbolt, while the Rock Blast connects with Lapras. The water lights up as the audience, trainers, and Lapras' herd watch in anticipation of who won the exchange. After what seems like an eternity, Dreadnought surfaces, making its way to the platform. Nessa smiles. Ash, concerned for Lapras, begins to call to it, thinking the worst. But as Dreadnought mounts the platform, it collapses from the force of its own weight, while Lapras surfaces with a triumphant battle cry. The audience erupts in a frenzy, seeing these two trainers give it the best they had. But the victor is clear. Ash moves on to the top 4 of the tournament. Nessa recalls her Pokemon, a bit disappointed, but happy nonetheless. Later at the Pokemon Center, Ash is getting his Pokemon checked out when Nessa joins him. "You know, Ash, that battle today would have been different if we were on my home turf." Curious, Ash inquires what Nessa means by that statement. "Well, back in Galar, we have a special type of battling called Dynamax. It's a huge power-up for Pokemon." "Really?" Ash says with excitement in his voice. "Well, why didn't you use it today?" "Forget that. Let's go have a rematch so you can start off with it." Nessa giggles slightly. "I'm sorry. It doesn't really work like that. In order to Dynamax, you need to be near a power spot, and those only exist in the Galar region." Disappointed, Ash lets out a sigh. He was hoping to see a new type of battling. Nessa interrupts his disappointment to thank Ash. She needed that loss today. Wondering why she would thank him, Ash questions what she is saying. Nessa goes on to explain that the reason she came to the World Cup was to challenge herself. That Dynamax thing that I told you about is kind of a double-edged sword, she says. I've been using it a long time. So long, I kind of forgot what a Pokemon battle without it was like. I feel like I've become too reliant on it, and my battle skills were slipping. To be honest, Nessa, I was kind of surprised when I won today. I thought that you were going to be more of a challenge, like B was. Before I knew it, the match was over. It was nowhere that one-sided when I battled B. Looking to Ash, I know what you mean. B is the best of us in the Galar region. She often travels to hone her skills, always growing. She uses Dynamax only as a last resort, but she stays humble. She has the potential to even become the champion of the region one day. I could sense that, Ash says. But don't sell yourself short either, Nessa. You do have skill, and if I didn't have Thunderbolt, then you could have won. Yeah, but this just reaffirms my decision to get better without Dynamaxing. That's a brave choice, Ash says, as the night fades on. The next morning, Team Ash and Gary, as well as Nessa, look on from the stands. This is possibly the most important day of the competition. The top 4. Ash, Misty, Gary, and Wallace are the competitors. They all look on, curious on who their next opponent will be. Any 4 of them could be my opponent, Misty wonders. I want Gary, Ash thinks. Then, the announcements begin, as the names of the 4 combatants are placed in a randomizer. The crowd looks on in silence, wondering who it's going to be. As the names slow, Misty swallows hard, hoping to get the battle she wants. Then, the names appear. Ash versus Misty, Gary versus Wallace. The crowd sparks from dead silence to an overbearing uproar. Ash is disappointed, while Misty got exactly what she wanted. A battle with Ash, the trainer to beat in the competition. Ash tells Gary not to go losing. They will have their battle in the next round. Gary just smiles as he has to go prepare. His match is up first. Ash turns to meet with Misty. The look on her face is one of seriousness. Hey Misty, you okay? In the same scolding tone Misty always uses, Ash, you need to take our battle seriously. Out of all the trainers I wanted to battle here, you were on the top of the list. So, you better give me your all. Misty then walks away, leaving Ash in a stunned silence. The day's festivities start off with a bang, as the match with Gary and Wallace is one to behold. The master of Wallace is on full display in the match, and it's in the final moments. Gary is no slouch, however, demonstrating that even though he doesn't wield a single type, he understands Blastoise as it is his oldest Pokemon. Using his defensive shell as a means to wear down Milotic, Gary orders withdrawal every time Wallace orders an attack. Milotic is starting to tire. All of the twisters and ice beams just can't penetrate the shell. This lures Gary into a false sense of security. Thinking the Serpent has reached its limit, Gary orders Blastoise from its shell to use a Hydro Pump in hopes of ending the battle. Unfortunately, Wallace throws off Gary's plan when he shows why Milotic is his ace, calling for a recover, allowing it to survive the damage with little recourse. Looking on, Gary has a choice to make. Though Blastoise isn't that winded due to the time it spent hiding its shell, if it can't end Milotic in one hit, then things will quickly turn. Knowing he needs to make a play, Gary orders a rapid spin. Blastoise curls up once again, spinning as fast as it can towards the target. Wallace just smiles, ordering Milotic to coil around Blastoise as it comes within its personal space. This slows the rapidness of the spin to a stall. Now that Blastoise is caught and at an awkward angle as well, Gary has to do something to break it free. Hoping a bite will do the trick, Gary calls for it. Blastoise executes the move, exposing only its head to do so, but this is what Wallace was waiting for, calling for a water pulse in response. Though the damage isn't great, Blastoise unfortunately falls ill to its side effect, confusion. Blastoise begins to thrash about as Gary calls to it, but the hold Milotic has on it is too great. The lack of mobility intensifies the confusion, making Blastoise unresponsive to its trainer's calls, in turn exposing itself fully, allowing Wallace to continue an onslaught of twisters until Blastoise is unable to battle, knocking Gary out of the competition. The crowd goes wild as the judge calls the match. Gary sighs with relief. He knew that this battle would be intense, but he gave it his all, and so did his Pokemon, and that's all he can ask for. Now that one participant for the final round has been decided, it's time for the last one. Misty, Ash. Which one will be able to advance? The desire is great, but who is greater remains to be seen. Ash and Misty enter the arena. There are no words, just thoughts. I need to beat Ash here, Misty thinks. This has to be my time. While Ash ponders what's gotten into Misty, she seems different, motivated. The silence between the two is broken when they are told to choose their first Pokemon. Misty wastes no time in sending in her newest Pokemon, Corsola. Thinking the same way, Ash chooses to send in his defensive wall, Kingler. The start of the match is announced as the crowd goes wild. Ash leads with the Bubble Beam. Knowing Corsola has speed, Misty orders it into the water to dodge. This allows Corsola to get in close enough to use a Spike Cannon. In response, Ash orders a Harden, telling Misty that she needs to be a little less obvious with her moves. He's been watching her battles the whole tournament, so Ash knows the tricks that she's developed, as Kingler uses a crab hammer to knock away the rest of the spike cannons. Oh, don't worry, Ash. We're just getting started. Corsola, use Bubble Beam. As it fires the attack, Kingler then counters with its own. They seem to be at a standstill. This is going well, Misty thinks. I need Kingler to get into the water. That's the only chance we would have. Corsola, dive under the water. The coral Pokemon does, and just stays there, as Ash and Kingler lose sight of them. Then from the right, a spike cannon. Then from the left, Kingler is able to establish somewhat of a defense with its giant claws, but the attacks are coming in faster than it can turn to block them, so they are starting to get through, and Ash is beginning to get a little frustrated. He knows Kingler is better at battling on the surface, but if he wants to take the lead, then he's gonna have to order it into the water. Ordering Kingler in, this solves the problem of finding Corsola. Now, they just have to catch it. Ash tells Kingler to use a Bubble Beam. The move just so happens to find Corsola, even though its speed is greater. That attack put a clock on Corsola, as all the running around has taken its toll on its stamina. Misty orders a Recover to stave off the end. With Corsola recovering, Ash takes this moment and orders a Crab Hammer. It comes crashing down, smashing Corsola. There's no movement. Misty, thinking the worst, calls to her Pokemon. Kingler pulls back its claw to reveal that Corsola had taken the attack, but it was absorbed by its spikes. Smiling, Misty orders a Spike Cannon that hits Kingler unguarded. It then speeds off out of range of Kingler's attacks. Ash, now frustrated that he's making no progress, orders Kingler's ace move, Hyper Beam. The King Crab charges the destructive energy. At Ash's command, it fires. Misty, realizing that Corsola can't dodge, orders her last resort, Mirror Coat. Taking the damage, Corsola absorbs it, then returns all of the damage it took in Kingler's direction. Ash orders Kingler to dodge, but the crab isn't the most nimble and is enveloped in a flash of energy. Ash watches as Kingler surfaces, unable to battle. The first round goes to Misty. Recalling Kingler, Ash just looks on as Misty celebrates. Realizing he needs to actually take this seriously, Ash tells Misty that she took him by surprise. He thought for sure he had that one. Misty says nothing, just thinking, Ash, this match will be mine. The judge then calls for the next round, as Ash sends in Octillery. Corsola took a lot of damage in that last battle, but with Recover, Misty thinks that she can navigate this battle with Corsola, deciding to keep it in. The battle begins. This time, the advantage that Misty had is gone, as Octillery is just as mobile as Corsola. This becomes apparent when Octillery is easily able to close the gap between the two with its newest move. This isn't the ideal situation either, as Corsola also has the rock typing, so this will be a massive hit, possibly a knockout. Misty orders a Spike Cannon that manages to intercept some of the bullet seeds, but a few get through, pushing Corsola to its limits. Misty, in a rush, orders a Recover. Corsola begins to glow. Ash, knowing he can't let this happen, orders another bullet seed. The two collide in a mild underwater explosion. Once the cloud fades, Octillery is fine, taking no damage, and surprisingly, Corsola is still able to battle, but it's moving slow. The recovery just barely saved it, Misty thinks. She needs to recover once more, but as she calls, Octillery is on top of Corsola at Ash's command. It is now wrapped around Misty's Mon, constricting it. Ash then orders a Bullet Seed that can't be dodged. This is enough to finally end this battle, giving Ash his first win. Misty recalls her Pokemon, knowing that things could swing in Ash's favor if she doesn't make the right choice. But she already knows the next choice, sending in Poliwhirl. The battle begins with Misty ordering Poliwhirl to get in close to Octillery. This catches Ash off guard. Why would Misty want to get in close, he thinks, but he can't think about that, as he needs to deal with this now. Ordering a Constrict from Octillery, but this is what Misty wanted. Octillery close. As it begins to constrict around her Pokemon, Poliwhirl heeds its trainer command to unleash a Hypnosis. This catches Octillery as it is too close to dodge. The octopi's grip begins to weaken as it falls into a slumber. This opens it up to a flurry of double slaps from Poliwhirl. This is my chance, Misty thinks. I can take the lead here. I just have to keep up the pressure. Poliwhirl, keep using double slap. Looking on, Ash continues calling to Octillery with no response. Not sure of what to do, Ash starts to think that this battle is lost. If Octillery doesn't wake up, then it doesn't matter what he thinks up. But a bit of luck happened when Poliwhirl knocks it out of the water. This gives it a clear shot to hear Ash's cries, causing it to awaken. Misty misses this, caught up in the thought of actually winning this battle. But Ash notices and waits till Octillery comes back down to the water to order a Psybeam that hits Poliwhirl. This is where Misty realizes her mistake and tries to fix it with a double slap. But Poliwhirl doesn't respond. Why? Misty yells while Ash smiles. Then it hits her. Poliwhirl begins to thrash around. The Psybeam, it caused a confusion. This isn't good. Misty can't get through. Ash chooses to capitalize with the the Bullet Seed. Luckily for Misty, the thrashing of Poliwhirl does knock some of them away, but most of the seeds get through, causing a good bit of damage. Misty continues to call to her Poliwhirl, but it's no use. The thrashing about is too intense and it's beginning to hurt itself. Unsure of what else to do, Misty just watches as Ash makes his next move. Octazooka. It connects, knocking Poliwhirl back against the battle platform. This does inch it closer to the end, but knocks it out of confusion. This lucky break is what Misty was hoping for, ordering a Bubble Beam. Ash counters with the Bullet Seed, but both moves just miss each other, connecting with their targets. This is it. Both Pokemon are at their limits. Knowing this, both trainers need to make a big move. Misty orders a Body Slam, hoping that its power will be enough to end it in her favor. Ash, on the other hand, was waiting for this, telling Octillery to absorb the attack with its tentacles. This allows Octillery to slowly constrict around Poliwhirl once more, but it was smart taking it from behind, as this time it can avoid the hypnosis. With one final call, Ash orders a Bullet Seed that pummels Poliwhirl in the back of the head, ending this battle. The crowd begins to cheer. This battle has had them on the edge of their seats. Just when it looks like it's over, the tables are flipped. Misty recalls her Pokemon, thanking Poliwhirl for its efforts. Now down to her final Pokemon, Misty knows this is it, as she sends in Gyarados. The monster of the seas emerges with a mighty roar, but Octillery is unfazed. It's a warrior, and will not run from an opponent no matter how big they are. Misty orders the first move as the match starts. Bite. Ash, knowing Octillery's last battle wasn't an easy one, tells it to dive in the water. Slinking across the platform, Octillery makes it, avoiding the attack, but the Serpent doesn't stop, heading in after it, at Misty's command. Octillery doesn't have the speed to avoid it any longer, and is hit with a Dragon Rage from behind. Ash knows he has only one choice, and tells Octillery to face Gyarados. Then, with all it has, Ash orders a Psybeam. The move is met with a Hydro Pump that pushes Octillery to the floor of the ocean, knocking it out. Octillery floats to the surface, where Ash recalls it. Wow, Misty, this has been a great battle. This is where Misty finally speaks. Ash, I have to win here. The last 2 years, I've watched you grow, pushing your limits, while I just looked on, sacrificing my own dreams. Well, no more. This is my element, water, and you won't take this from me. Smiling, that's great, Misty. I'm glad you found what you were looking for. That motivation means our final battle will be the best one of the tournament. As Ash calls for his ace, Lapras. As it takes the field, Misty looks on, knowing full well that this will be the toughest challenge she's faced to date, but she can't let it affect her. The judge calls for the start of the battle, and Misty tells Gyarados to dive deep. It needs to keep its distance, since Lapras knows Thunderbolt. However, Ash won't let it get away, ordering Lapras to give chase. Ash is fully aware that he has the advantage, just like Misty, but what he's not expecting is that Misty is like a wild Pokemon that's been backed into a corner, and when that happens, they become dangerous and unpredictable, and she proves it when Gyarados gets the upper hand by hitting Lapras with a Hyper Beam. It hits Lapras from the side, that just so happens to be the same side that one day prior, Dreadnought tried to make a meal out of, its flipper. The damage that Lapras has took to its flipper has now slowed its movement, allowing Gyarados time to recharge while it is stunned. Ash tells Lapras to surface. It needs to get out of the water. As it does so, Misty orders her Serpent on the attack once more with the Dragon Rage. This hits as well, causing a little bit more damage. Ash, thinking he needs to do something, looks around. He wants Lapras out of the water so it can rest on the platform, but he needs to get it there. Then he has an idea. Gyarados is coming, and Ash tells Lapras to let it come. As the Sea Snake closes in on the same flipper that is now hurt, Ash tells Lapras to use Ice Beam on that flipper. The Ice Beam encases the flipper in a cast-like shell that gives Lapras its mobility back, allowing it to dive, avoiding the bite that was coming from Gyarados. Then, Ash calls for his trump card, Thunderbolt. The electricity surges through Gyarados, using the water as an amplifier. Misty looks on, knowing that if she doesn't do something, she will lose. As they are by a wall underwater, she orders a Hydro Pump that Gyarados fires to push itself away and out of range of the super effective attack. Man, I knew this was going to be rough, but I thought we had it. But this is Ash. He's really good at thinking on the fly. That Ice Cast on Lapras was genius. Ash tells Lapras to use this opening to get to the platform. It does, using its new mobility to do so. Now that Lapras has a vantage point, Ash and it can watch for any attacks. Misty, on the other hand, is now contemplating what she's going to do. She needs to create an opening. Then it hits her. She tells Gyarados to circle the platform that Lapras is on as fast as it can. As it does, Ash wonders what Misty's game is, telling Lapras to be on guard and fire random ice beams into the water. They each miss as little islands of ice appear in the places of the attack. Then it happens, what Misty was trying to do. A miniature whirlpool forms around the platform that Lapras is on. Ash, realizing this, orders Lapras to freeze it with an ice beam, but the current is too strong and the ice shatters. It's at this point that Misty tells Gyarados it's time to feed a Dragon Rage into the whirlpool. Suddenly, a column of energy erupts from the water, enveloping Lapras. Ash yells to his Pokemon. Though that was a low-powered attack, the damage it deals is set. Once the column subsides and Lapras is visible, Ash can tell it felt that one. Gyarados then takes its side by Misty, ready for her next command. That's it. I'm going to do this, Misty thinks. Lapras then begins to stir as it's ready for the next round. That's it, Lapras. It's time to end this. Ash orders another Thunderbolt. It launches the attack, but something is wrong. It's wild, like Lapras is having trouble controlling it. The Thunderbolt ends up striking near the crowd in the stands. No, not good, Ash thinks. Lapras must not be that experienced with the move. I guess we'll have to win by other means. Misty lets out a sigh of relief. That was the one thing she was worried about. But if Lapras can't control it, then she might actually have a chance to win. This is when Ash reveals his last resort, as he calls for a move that Misty has never heard of. Perish Song. This forces Gyarados to begin writhing in pain. As it thrashes about, Misty calls to it, but is unable to reach it. Ash, what did you do? Why is Gyarados acting like that? As Lapras finishes the song, Ash tells Misty what's going on. Perish Song will take out their Pokemon in the next 3 moves. So this puts Misty on the clock, as Gyarados has taken more damage than Lapras. A feeling of panic begins to wash over Misty. How will she get out of this one? Looking at Gyarados, it nods as she does. They won't go down, and all-out attack is the only way. Head on, as Ash would. Misty orders a Hydro Pump. Lapras, unable to move in time, is broadsided by it, but the damage is minimal, while Ash retaliates with an Ice Beam. Gyarados is able to dodge, diving into the water. Once it's resurfaced, it is met with an Ice Beam that actually does hit, but Misty saw this coming, as it's the only move that Lapras can use, so she orders Gyarados to use a Dragon Rage on itself as a shield. This brings us to the final move. At the end of this, the Perish Song will end the battle between the two. If Misty wants to win, she needs to hit Lapras as hard as she can, but Ash is keeping Gyarados away with long-range Ice Beams, so this leaves only one option. Misty orders Gyarados to charge the strongest Hyper Beam it can. Knowing that Lapras can't move, Ash orders another Ice Beam to counter. The 2 beams charge in full force, colliding with enough energy that shakes the arena. This is it. Both Pokemon know that there's nothing after this, and are holding nothing back. Lapras pushes all it has into the Ice Beam, while Gyarados does the same. The energy from the attacks is too much, and it becomes unstable, resulting in an explosion that covers the battlefield, stands, and the surrounding ocean. Now we cut to the next day, in the final battle of the final match. We see Wallace and his Milotic, and his opponent is Misty and her Gyarados. The 2 serpents have been battling it out with all they have. Unfortunately, it's clear a winner has already been decided, as Gyarados falls from exhaustion, and Wallace is announced as the winner while Ash and Gary watch from the audience. Wow, Ash. Misty almost had it. She did, but I don't think she would have been able to win, Ash says. I don't think I could have won either. We gave it all in our battle yesterday, saving nothing for today. Wow, Ash. Did you just have a moment of clarity, Gary says, as the 2 laugh together, while Vincent and Ethan look on. Marina points out the jealousy of the 2 towards Gary and Ash, but the 2 just play it off, drawing the attention back to the festivities. After everything is said and done, the group is back at the Pokemon Center. Even though they didn't win, there was some cool prizes handed out to the top 4. Ash, coming in dead last of the top 4, got a Mystic Water. Something said to power up water-type moves. Maybe he can use it in the future. For coming in 3rd, Gary received a Dragon Scale. Something he's heard can power up one of his prized Pokemon in the tournament, Seadra. For coming in 2nd, Misty was gifted a King's Rock, something she may find a use for at a later time. And finally, Wallace was gifted a rare Silver Wing, an item that shines in the deepest darkness and is believed to control the whirlpools around the world islands. With the tournament at an end, the groups begin to discuss their next moves. Team Gary will continue on to Cianwood City, while Ash's next badge is in a place called Goldenrod, which is 1 island away from their current location. It's at this point Vincent reminds everyone that he's already obtained that badge, slightly irritating everyone. With all the goodbyes said, and Ash telling Gary that they will battle in the Johto League, the teams part ways. Ash then says his final goodbyes to Lapras, and thanks it for all of the work that it put in during the tournament. It is at this point that the leader of its group decides to pass on the leadership role to Ash's Lapras for the performance that it gave in the World Cup. Team Ash then wave goodbye as the herd disappears into the sunset. With everything tied up, Team Ash then heads off to the east side of the island to catch their next boat. But they hear someone calling to Misty from the distance. As they turn, it's the victor of the World Cup, Wallace. "Hey Misty," he yells. "Can we talk for a moment?" Surprised, Misty walks to Wallace and speaks in private. Vincent wonders what they are talking about. Maybe he's giving her pointers on water Pokemon, he says. But Ash tells him to be quiet as Misty is returning. "So what did Wallace say?" Ash questions. "Well, you see, he asked..." "Come on, Misty, just say it," Vincent blurts out. "Wallace asked me to come to the Hoenn region with him to train," Misty yells nervously, shocking Vincent into a silence. "Really?" Ash inquires. The young water trainer goes on to say that Wallace claims that the Hoenn region is the perfect place to train for a water-type specialist, and at his gym, he will help me hone my skills. The battle we had impressed him so much that he thinks it'll do me good. Vincent goes on a tangent about how Misty can't abandon the team. They just got started to hit their stride. Then rambles on about more things that just fades away as Misty waits for Ash's response. But he's silent, and Misty doesn't like this. "You know what? I'll just tell him no," she says. But Ash then speaks out. "You should go," he mutters. "It's clear you need to follow your own path, Misty. And that path is no longer with me," Ash says with his head tilted to block the tears in his eyes. "But Ash," Vincent says, only to be stopped by the young champion. "No, this is something you need to do," as he lifts his head, wiping the tears. "I knew this was going to come someday, and it looks like today is that day." Misty smiles. "You know we will always be friends, right?" "We will," Ash says, "no matter how far apart we are." With that, Pikachu says goodbye to Togepi and Chinchou, while Vincent and Ash say their goodbyes, only then to watch Misty walk away with Wallace. "Well, Ash, I guess it's just us then." "Yeah, but we'll be fine, right, buddy?" as Pikachu mounts Ash's shoulder. "So, Ash, where's the next place we're heading?" It's a place called Altomare, I think. And that, my friends, is where we will leave this story for now. And that's all we have for What If Indigo Champion Ash Challenged the Johto League Part 10. How did you feel about the ending with the battle between Ash and Nesta? How did you feel about the battle between Ash and Misty? Do you feel that it was right for Misty to come in second place in this contest? And most of all, how do you feel about Misty heading off to the Hoenn region with Wallace to train? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to follow me on my other platforms, such as Twitter, in my Discord, or if you want to support even further, go ahead and follow me on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can get up to a week's early access to all of my content. But with all that being said, let's sign out the video the best way we know how, and thanking the sponsors of the video, the patrons. Silver Heart Soul, Robert, Vegito Gaming 78, Andrew McCartney, Holosiv, Julian Rodriguez, Ruben Watson, Lord Explosion Murder, Assassin 139, Flyer 943, Shadow Dragon, Tavern Landlord, K McKnight, Kevin Atran, Maker YAG, Drax, Truevolt, Dalen Silva, Fox King, Dalian Petit, Warren E. Taylor, Plus Ultraman, Megar, Mike Logan, Eddie, Team Valor, and Kendall Green. Thank you all very much, and I will see you in the next video.